Good morning, I'm Kate, an English teacher on Verbly. Today's class is for intermediate English learners. And over the past few weeks, I've done some classes where we've focused on the grammar and practicing using the grammar structures for different types of conditional sentences. So first, second, and third conditional. And we haven't really had enough time to practice the speaking part. So today's class will be, the idea of today's class, or the goal of today's class, will be to start to practice speaking and using these conditional structures that we've learned. So if you're watching and you're new to Verbling, Verbling is a language learning platform. There are classes available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So no matter where you are in the world, you can find a class that's suitable for you, right? So whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, excuse me, or an advanced learner, you can find an appropriate class on Verbling. And all of the classes you'll find are taught by native speakers. So again, today's class is about conditionals. And for those of you who don't remember, conditional sentences are sentences with an if clause and a main clause, right? And instead of reviewing the grammar, today we'll just be practicing using these structures in conversation. Okay. So, welcome.
Hello, Kathleen. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. How are you doing?
I went to a haircut earlier, and it's not as good as I imagined. So I think find a good place for a haircut always issue.
It's always difficult. It's always difficult. Yeah, especially if you're in a different country. Then it's especially difficult. And so what did they do? Did they cut your hair too short?
Yes, I think too short. It's just to make me look not so naturally, I think.
It doesn't. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't. You don't look like you.
Yes, I think.
All right. Good. And Matt, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so I think we'll wait a few more minutes for the rest of the students to arrive. And both of you have done conditional classes with me, so there should be no problem, right? So essentially, the idea is that we're practicing using the conditional in different situations. So we really want to be able to say, okay, to naturally use, a first conditional in an appropriate situation, a second conditional in a very different type of situation, and the third conditional in, again, a different type of situation, speaking. Okay. Hi, Abby.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. Okay. So, before we get started with the speaking activities, or the actual speaking component, can the three of you remind me what type of situation what do we use each of the conditional tenses for? So when do we use, for example, the first conditional? When do we use the first conditional?
Often in the present.
In the present. And with the first conditional, are we talking about hypothetical situations?
Sorry, you prefer?
So I said in the first conditional, are we speaking about hypothetical situations or real situations?
A real situation.
Yeah, the first conditional is used to express to talk about a condition that is very probable. It is possible or even probable, and it's real, right? Because we're using the present tense in the if clause and the future tense in the main clause. Okay, good, Matt. So then when are we using the second conditional? For what type of situation? When do we use the second conditional?
The second.
Well,
Okay,
go ahead.
go, Lou.
I have no idea because I don't even know what first condition or second conditional stands for. So
Okay. All right, so Lua, have you been? I think you've been in one of my conditional classes or not?
I don't think so. Maybe other class, but not for conditional, I think.
Okay, we'll do a quick review. So first conditional. If it rains. Okay, so these are all conditional sentences are sentences that use an if clause and a main clause, right? The first conditional, this is an example. If it rains tomorrow, we will go to the beach. So, Luo, in the if clause, which is if it rains tomorrow, what verb tense do we use?
We'll use if it rains tomorrow, we'll future present.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
we use present tense in the if clause, right? Rains is present tense. And then we use future in the main clause. Will go is future tense. Okay, and this is a very possible or likely situation, right? I'm saying I don't know if it will rain tomorrow, but it's certainly possible that it will, and I'm telling you what I will do in that case. Okay, so that's in summary, that's the first conditional. Questions?
No, I think I can understand. Thank you.
Okay. So can someone give me, maybe Ebby or Matt, can you give me an example of a second conditional sentence?
Second.
Yes. For the first conditional, right?
Or for second conditional?
Second.
Okay, sorry, I thought you said for the first conditional.
Nope. Okay, so an example of a second conditional. Hold on, I'm typing. So here we have an example. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. Okay, so second conditionals are used for hypothetical or improbable, so not probable, scenarios, right? My chances of winning the lottery are very, very small. So I'm using the second conditional. Notice that the structure is the same, right? We have an if clause and a main clause, but the verb tenses that we use are different. So in the second conditional, in the if clause, what tense is the verb?
Simple past.
Simple past, right? So second conditional is simple past. And then in the main clause?
Simple present.
Yeah, it's would or a different modal verb, excuse me, plus the infinitive, right? So travel, well, the bare infinitive, the infinitive without to. Okay, so would travel. We have would or a different modal verb like could, should, etc. Plus the infinitive. So in this case, travel. Okay. Can someone give me another example of a second conditional sentence?
If I were president, I would cut taxes.
Excellent, Matt. Perfect. So, if I were president, I would cut taxes. Okay, very, very good. So here again, we have the simple past in the if clause, which is were. And in the main clause, we have would plus an infinitive. Okay? All right, good. So third conditional is the most complicated, right? Let's see. If I had sorry, I'm typing. Okay, so here's an example. Third conditional. If I had graduated from university, I would have had a better job. Okay, so this one is super complicated structurally. Can anyone tell me what tenses we are using here? In the if clause, what is had graduated?
It's a past.
I think it's past perfect.
Past perfect. Good.
Past perfect. I don't like grammar.
It's okay, this is tricky. Okay, so we have past perfect. And then in the main clause?
Would and past perfect.
Would and present perfect.
Present perfect.
Oh, okay.
And actually, it's always have. So we'll just say would plus have plus past participle.
So when do we use the third conditional?
Okay, so the third conditional is to talk about completely unreal situations, right? So if you imagine a spectrum from real to imaginary, up here is the first conditional, the second conditional is here, and the third conditional is here, right? It's totally unreal. Okay, it's imaginary because with the first and second conditionals, we're talking about the present or the future. Okay, but with the third conditional, we're talking about the past. We're talking about the past. This is a really important difference. So the main difference is time. The third conditional, so let's look at this example sentence. If I had graduated from university, I would have had a better job. So essentially the scenario here, the situation, is that the speaker did not graduate from university. Let's imagine she's talking about last year in the past. She did not graduate from university, right? And so she was unable to find a good job, right? She did not graduate, and then she couldn't find a good job. So she's imagining with this sentence an alternative past in which she did graduate from university, right? And so this is something, so we often use the third conditional to express regrets, things we wish had been different in the past. Okay, questions?
May I give an example?
Another example? Yes, absolutely.
Okay, if I had not English very well, I wouldn't have cheated by have raped by some cheaters in the English-speaking country.
Okay, wait, can you repeat it? If I had learned English very well, I wouldn't?
I wouldn't I wouldn't have ripped by someone in English-speaking country.
Okay. I couldn't hear. Ripped, did you say?
Ripped off. Ripped
Ah,
off.
good. Okay. Hold on. Okay, good. So his sentence is, if I had learned English very well, I wouldn't have been ripped off by someone in an English-speaking country. Did this happen to you, Luo?
Yes, it happened to me, but
Did.
not in an English-speaking country, but in Czech Republic. They are speaking English. Come
Okay.
on.
Okay, good. All right. So, if you look at, does everyone know what ripped off means, by the way?
Yes, to steal.
Yeah, it's like when someone makes you pay more than you should. Okay, good. So if you look at Luo's sentence, it's a good example. In the if clause, we have had learned, right? So we have the past perfect. In the main clause, we have would, it's negative, so wouldn't, have plus been, which is the participle of to be. Okay. So again, Luo is saying that this did happen, right? In the past, he was ripped off by people because he didn't speak English well enough. And so he's imagining how the past would have been different, right, if he had spoken English better at the time. Okay, questions? Okay, does everyone feel comfortable practicing using these sentences? Can we try to practice using these types of sentences with speaking?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, we'll try it. And if we see that we need to review some more first, we will do that. Okay, so no problem. All right, and the idea is these are tricky structures, so the idea is to learn through making mistakes, right? So just try, speak as much as you can, and I'll help you and correct any errors to guide you, so the next time you won't make the same mistake. Okay, and
Sorry,
yes.
Kate. Sorry, Kate. Can you repeat this word? You said tricky.
Tricky, yes.
Right, please. These words.
So tricky is difficult.
Tricky.
Tricky.
Oh,
And so we
tricky.
say tricky
I
just
don't
like,
know this word.
okay,
I
good. I'm
don't
glad
know
you
this
asked.
word.
Yeah, no, tricky just means like difficult.
Okay, thank you.
They're tricky structures. They're difficult grammatical structures.
Okay.
Okay. And hi, aka Ken.
Yes, hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, so good timing. We've just reviewed some examples of the three conditionals, and now we're going to just do some speaking practice. Okay, and if
Okay,
we need to review more, we'll do that. Okay,
okay.
all right. So I'm just going to throw some different questions at you. Some of them will be in first conditional, some of them will be in second conditional, and some of them will be in third conditional. And you have to sort of answer using the appropriate one. Okay? And so this can be sort of a free discussion, but really try to use these conditional structures. Okay. If you were invisible for a day, what would you do and why? If you were invisible for a day, what would you do and why? Okay, so just so we're all on the same page, which type of conditional structure will you be using today?
Second.
Third.
Good.
Oh,
Second.
second.
Okay.
Because if they're in third, let me just show you. So this is a second conditional, right? If this, we can phrase the same sentence using third and say, hold on. Okay, so in the third conditional, it would look like this, just so you can see the difference. It would be, if you had been invisible for a day, what would you have done and why? Okay, so, and this one we're talking about the past. But I want you to answer using the second conditional, because we're talking here about a hypothetical situation, right? It's a possible, or it's an unlikely or improbable scenario, but we're talking about the sort of hypothetical present or future, not the past. So class, tell me, if you were invisible for a day, what would you do and why?
If I was invisible for a day, I would sneak into the airplane to travel.
Good, excellent. Okay, a great example. AKA Ken, why don't you ask one of your other classmates what he or she would do?
Okay, Matteo, if you were invisible for a day, what would you do and why?
I could joke with the people.
Okay, good. Can you do use the full conditional structure? So if I
I use the if. If I could.
If I were invisible.
No. In this case, could no, it's possible. If I would like joke with the people.
Okay, close. One problem though. So here, so the would always goes in the main part of the sentence. You never follow if with would. So instead of saying if I, okay, you don't want to say that. You want to say if I were invisible, I would.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
If I were invisible, okay. I said in this case, if I were invisible, I would joke with the people. Okay.
Yeah, good. Or I would play jokes on people. Great. Okay, good. All right, some other questions.
Why there is I were? I think it should be I was.
Okay, yes, good question. Excellent question, Luo. So, technically, both are correct. Okay, so English grammar has changed a bit. The sort of educated way, for whatever reason, we have always said were, if I were. So yes, the past tense for I, for to be in the first person singular is absolutely was, right? I was, you were, he was. But with first and third person, with the verb to be only in these conditional structures, we tend to use were instead of was. Okay, so we just say if I were or if he were instead of if I was and if he was. This is traditionally the correct way to form these conditional sentences, and it comes from like a subjunctive tense in English that doesn't exist anymore. However, a lot of people today, native speakers included, say if I was invisible. So now the official rules say that both are correct. You can say either if I was or if I were. For me, if I were sounds more polished. It sounds more correct to me. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I'd like to say if I were, so it's more simple than if I was.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to conjugate anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. Good question. Okay, so let's see. Okay, if you could change one thing about your country, what would it be? If you could change one thing about your country, what would it be? Excuse me.
If I could change one thing about my country, I would wouldn't demolish the lots of the ancient building.
Okay, good. So you're saying if I'm going to type your sentence. If I could change one thing about my country, I wouldn't demolish the ancient beauty.
Ancient buildings.
Buildings. Sorry. I wouldn't demolish the ancient buildings. Okay, great. Good. All right. Luo, why don't you ask one of your classmates what he or she would do?
Hello, Aka. Aka Ken, if I can remember
Yes,
exactly.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you could change one thing about your country, what would it be?
Oh, change. If I could change one thing about my country, I would change the better social welfare system here. Change to better social welfare.
Okay, good. So if I could change one thing about my country, I would, or you could say, yeah, I would improve the welfare
Improve.
system.
Okay, improve.
Okay, great. Okay, let's see. Any questions so far? Okay. If you could erase any moment in your life, which moment would it be and why? This one is a little bit tricky. So if you could erase any moment in your life, which moment would it be and why?
Let's say if I could erase any moment in my life, I wouldn't erase any one of them because all of them I value. I will value.
Okay, good. So yeah, and there, it sounds better to say, even if I could erase any moment, I wouldn't erase any of them. Right? Just adding that even makes the sentence sound a bit more natural. Okay, good. So you value all of them as learning experiences, whatever. Okay, great. Okay, I see that's a tricky question. So, another one. If it rains this weekend, what will you do?
If it rains this weekend, I will take some classes indoor.
Good, I will take classes indoors.
Can I say an example?
Mhm.
If it rains this weekend, I would spend all my day outside.
Outside.
Yes.
Do you like the rain?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't have a lot of rain in my country, so whenever it rains, we feel happy and we spend all the time outside,
Oh, that's great.
which is
And
the opposite of you.
remind me where you are from?
I'm from Saudi Arabia.
From Saudi Arabia. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I like that. That's interesting. So, I would spend all day outside. Very cool. Or I will spend all day outside. Luo, what about you? What will you do if it rains this weekend?
If it rains this weekend, I will listening to the music in at my home.
Good. In at home. I will listen to music at home. Good. And Matt, what about you?
I think, okay. If it rains this weekend, I would stay in my home, to read a book.
Okay, good. So one thing I've noticed, um, so obviously sometimes using articles can be very tricky, right, in English. Um, one problem that learners have is there's a tendency to say to add extra articles sometimes where they're not necessary. So just so you guys know, we say stay at home.
At
Stay
okay.
at home, simply. Okay, good. Now, what about if it snowed this weekend? What would you do?
Rain, snow. It's a bad weekend.
It's a bad weekend. Notice there's an important difference in this sentence, right? Before I said, if it rains this weekend, what will you do? And now I'm saying, if it snowed this weekend, what would you do? Why did,
If it,
go ahead.
sorry,
No,
if
no,
it
go ahead.
snows this weekend, summertime, I would videotape that scene to
Good.
upload to the internet.
Okay.
It's pretty unusual.
Okay, good. So you would have, so if it snowed this weekend, I would videotape the
Mhm.
snow, or I would take a video and upload it to the internet.
Yes.
Good. Abby, what
But if it's very impossible, should I use the third conditional or?
no, you can still use the second conditional because here we're talking about the future still.
Okay. So if it snowed this weekend, I would stay at home.
You would stay at home. Okay, so you would play in the rain, but you wouldn't play in the snow.
Yeah, I can say that I will play at the snow, but I have never tried it, so
Okay, good, good. Any others?
Yes, if it snowed this weekend, I would go outside, make a snowman, or have a snow battle with my friends.
Good, a snow fight.
Snow fight, yes.
Or a snowball fight, sorry. We say a snowball fight. Good. And you, Matteo?
If it snowed this weekend, I would schedule meet at my home with a girl
Okay.
near fire.
Okay, so I would schedule a meeting with a
A
girl.
meeting, schedule meeting, yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So a question for all of you. Which conditional did I use in the sentence about rain?
First.
First.
Oh, okay. And what about the sentence with snow?
Second.
Second. Okay, so why did I use first conditional in the sentence about rain and second conditional in the sentence about snow?
I don't know.
I think in the first one it was like about to rain. You think that it is gonna rain, right? It's more likely to rain in the first conditional than the second.
Okay, yeah, so in general, right, it's, at least for me, where I am, it's the summer, right? It's summertime. So it rains sometimes, right? It's normal. It's not crazy if it is going to rain the next day, or even if it rains somewhat unexpectedly. However, if it snowed tomorrow, it would be very, very surprising, right? It's much more unlikely to have snow than to have rain. So for that reason, I'm using the first conditional to talk about rain because, yeah, I think it's possible that it will rain this weekend, whereas I think it's nearly impossible that it will snow this weekend. Right? If it snowed this weekend, it would be national news. Okay, is that clear for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
What about
Yes.
the question, which is if I could change one thing about your country?
Okay,
Which
good.
conditional?
Good question. So that's also a second conditional. So here, it's confusing because could is not acting as a modal verb in this sentence. Hold on, let me, so if I could, or sorry, so everyone can see it. Okay, so if we have the sentence, if you could change one thing about your country, what would you change? Okay, so knowing that this is a second conditional, let's look at the structure. So the structure of a second conditional is what? If, in the if clause, what verb tense do we use?
Simple past.
If plus simple past. And then in the main clause?
Would and
Infinitive.
yeah, infinitive.
Okay. So here, what is the if clause?
Could change.
Yeah, if you could change one thing about your country. That's the if clause. So if it's a second conditional, we should have simple past, right? A verb in simple past. So here we have the verb could. Okay, so usually we are used to seeing could as a modal verb. Here, could is working as the past tense of can. So could is also the past tense of can. So instead of saying if you, so in the first conditional, this sentence would be, if you can change one thing about your country, what will you change? Right? But it's unlikely that you can change one thing about your country just like that. So we're using the second conditional. So we have to put can in the past, and can turns to could in the past. Questions? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Very good question, because that can definitely be confusing. Okay, so one more question. Again, weather related. Hold on, give me a second. So the question is, if there had been a tornado yesterday, what would you have done? If there had been a tornado yesterday, what would you have done?
If the tornado ever
Sorry?
have been happened,
If there
yes,
had been a tornado?
Yeah. I would have hide it into hide it. I forgot.
Hidden.
Hidden, sorry, hidden
Uh-huh.
into I forgot what the room in underground,
In the
uh,
basement.
a basement. Yeah.
So if there had been a tornado, I would have hidden in the basement. Good.
Mhm.
Very good, AK Ken. Why don't you ask one of your classmates?
Okay. No. If there had been a tornado, I would have hidden in the basement. No, no, sorry.
It's
That's
okay.
not a question.
Ask,
If
ask.
there had been a tornado, uh, uh, what would you have done?
Great.
If there had been a tornado, I would have hidden in a safety place and watch it for my curiosity.
Okay, good. You would have hidden and you would have watched it. Good. Perfect. Okay, so let's see. Actually, I want everyone to answer this. Mateo, what would you have done?
Okay. What would you have done? But in this case,
Uh-huh. If there had been a tornado,
okay,
yeah.
okay, 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 okay. If there had been a tornado, I would leave my home uh, with my car.
Okay, good. So one problem, I would have left my home.
Left because yeah,
Good. So it's the participle. I would have left. Okay,
I
good.
will left.
Great. And Abby, what about you?
If there had been a tornado, I would have stayed with my family all the time.
Okay, the whole time. Yeah, good. Perfect. Okay, so here in this question, which conditional am I using? We used first for rain, second for snow, and about the tornado, which type of
Third.
conditional? Third, right?
Third,
Third. Okay. So if I use the third conditional, what question am I asking? So what is this? What is the situation here? Was there a tornado yesterday?
No.
No, right? And so what am I asking you then? This is a difficult question. So I'm asking you to imagine the
If it
past,
happens.
right? And yeah, how the past would have been different if there had been a tornado. And again, am I talking here about the future or about the past?
The past.
The past, right?
pass.
Imagining a different scenario in the past. Okay, any questions
So,
here?
so third condition is for the hypothetical situation and regret, mostly.
And what was the last part? Hypothetical
Regret.
regrets, or for imagining alternative situations in the past. So
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
imagining an unreal past.
Mhm.
So literally, this is just simply like false, right? Because
Mhm.
yes, because we're talking about the past, and we know that yesterday there was not a tornado. So I'm imagining a situation that is contrary to fact.
Okay.
But yeah, and we can use it for regrets as well, right?
Okay.
And so actually, yeah, that's a good point. Let's talk about that. So um, let's see. Here's an example of actually. Can anyone give an example sentence using the third conditional to express a regret? To express something he or she regrets about the past.
If I had started English learning earlier, I would have English more fluently. I would have spoken English more fluently. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you can say, if I had started English learning earlier, I would have spoken English more fluently. Okay, good. And so in this case, what is the thing that AKA Ken is regretting? What is his regret?
Learning English in a young age.
Yeah, not learning English at a young age. Good. Okay. So yeah, does anyone else have an example of how they can use third conditional to express regret? Okay, so just an imaginary one. If I had studied more, I would have graduated from university.
Can I say if
Uh-huh.
I if I hadn't if I hadn't watched the World Cup's final game too late last night, I could have done my jobs more smoothly today.
Good. Okay, so if I hadn't stayed up late watching the World Cup, I could have done my job more smoothly today. Absolutely. Okay, questions about this?
I have an example.
Okay, go ahead, Abby.
If I had eaten a lot of vegetable and fruits, um, I would have had a better health.
Good. 1 second. Okay, this is a great example, right? If I had eaten a lot of vegetables and fruits, I would have had better health. Okay, so so what I've shown you are the very strictly formed conditional sentences. We also tend to change them a little bit, and this could be a whole lesson on its own. But I just want to show you an example of a variation that is common using Ebby's example. Okay, so her example is perfectly good as it stands. But we can also say this. If I had eaten a lot of vegetables and fruits, I would have better health. Okay, so this is kind of mixing the first or the third and the second conditionals. What's the difference? Do you see any difference between these two sentences?
Yes, there's no had.
Okay, and what about what difference in meaning does that create?
It means like now I still have I don't know.
No, yeah, you're definitely on the right track.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
absolutely.
like my health now.
Yeah, good. Okay, so in the first sentence here, one where we're just using the simple third conditional, so the example that Abby gave, we're saying if I had eaten vegetables in the past, also in the past, I would have had better health, right? But if we look at my alternate version, the meaning is slightly different. Here we're saying, if I had eaten a lot of vegetables in the past, I would have better health now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so absolutely. I think you were on the right track, Ebby, with that. Okay, questions? Is this clear to everyone? Okay, so let's just keep practicing. Now, I want you, actually, yeah, we have a few minutes left. I want you to come up with some questions to ask your classmates. Okay, and I want you to try to use, to vary which conditional structures you use. So don't always use the second, don't always use the first, don't always use the third. Try to mix it up, and ask your classmate a question using one of the conditional structures. Okay, when someone has an example of a question they would like to ask, just let me know and you can start. So everyone should be thinking of questions they can ask their classmates.
I have one.
Okay.
If you could go to any country, where would you go?
Great.
Yeah.
Good question.
So, yeah.
Okay, so who would you like to ask?
If I could go to any country, I would go to Saudi Arabia to see the rain there.
Okay, good. I would go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Sometimes I heard sometimes it rains there. Yeah.
Sometimes it rains.
It is only in the winter.
Okay, I would go there in the winter time.
You go in the winter. Okay, good. Good. All right. So, AKA Ken, why don't you ask a different classmate your question?
Okay. My question, Matteo, and can I ask the same question? No, the different question?
Ask a different question.
Different question. Oh my gosh. If you could buy anything, what would you buy?
Good.
If you can you write?
If you
If
could
you
buy
could
anything.
buy okay anything, what would you buy? Okay. If I could buy anything, I would buy a new computer.
Good. Excellent. If I could buy anything, I would buy a new computer. Perfect. Very good, Matteo. Okay. Or Matt, sorry. So, Matt,
No
why
problem.
don't you ask a question to one of your classmates?
Okay. One moment, I think it's tricky.
It is. It's tricky. Good. Good use of the word tricky.
If you would schedule, if you would schedule a party, where would you organize?
Okay. Almost perfect. Remember, after if, you never want to use would. You can use could, though. Okay, so
Okay.
if
In
you
this case,
could,
it's could. Okay. If you
if you
could.
could schedule a party, where would you organize it? Good. So let's see. Luo, why don't you answer this one?
I would organize a party in the North Pole or South Pole.
Sorry, what was?
Repeat it.
North
Can you
Pole.
Moscow? What is this?
The North.
North Pole. Okay, sorry.
Very creative.
North. Okay.
I think that would be a very cool party, Luo.
Wow, nice.
Nice party, yeah. Okay, so Luo, do you have a question for one of your classmates? Let's see, for Ebby.
Yes. If you had bankrupt last month, what would you have done? What would you have done?
Okay, good. I appreciate you using the third conditional. Very good. So if you had been bankrupt last month, what would you have done?
If I had been bankrupt last month, I would have gone to the police and told them about the whole story.
Okay, so I think you're thinking of robbed, right? If you had been robbed last month?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's slightly different. So when you're bankrupt, it means that you lose all of your money.
Okay,
Not
so
that feels it. Yeah.
mm,
Okay, but no problem. No, we'll just use your sentence with robbed. So if I had been robbed last month, right? You said I would have gone to the police and told them about it. Okay, no problem. Perfect. Okay, I have one final question. If your country had won the World Cup, what would you have done?
I don't believe it.
What would you have done?
I would have thrown the party at North Pole.
Good. I would have thrown the party at the North Pole. Excellent. Okay. Any other responses?
if we want to use the negative, we say wouldn't.
Uh-huh. Yeah, wouldn't.
I wouldn't have. Right? We say I wouldn't have.
Sorry? Yeah, I wouldn't have.
I wouldn't have slept for 3 days.
Good. I wouldn't have slept for 3 days. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So, good. I think we're going to have to end this here. We're about out of time. But does anyone have questions before we go? Okay. Well, as always, feel free, if you have questions later, to just send me a message. And otherwise, thank you all very much for participating and for being patient. You've done a great job today, and I hope to see all of you again very soon.
Thank
Okay,
you so much.
have a good one. Bye,
Bye,
class.
Kate.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, Kate. Bye.